I've lived a long life, and one thing age teaches you is patience. You learn to sit quietly, to let others believe they've read you completely, while you keep your thoughts to yourself. Most of the time, that works in my favor. But every once in a while, someone underestimates me so completely. I have no choice but to remind them who I am. That evening started like any other family gathering. My son Daniel had invited me to dinner, so I could meet his fiancée, Camille. I was happy for him. After losing his mother years ago, I'd worried he'd carry loneliness on his shoulders forever. When he called me with joy in his voice, telling me about the woman who had changed his life, I silently thanked heaven. I polished my shoes, wore the dark green sweater Daniel had given me for Christmas, and carried a small bouquet of leaves for Camille. First impressions matter, I told myself, even though I was the one meeting her, not the other way around. When I arrived, Daniel beamed at me, hugged me tight, and led me inside. Then she appeared. Camille was striking, elegant, dark hair swept up, pearl earrings glinting under the light. Her French accent curled around her words like ribbon. She leaned in to kiss me on both cheeks and said, "Enchanté m'sai." I smiled warmly. The pleasure's mine. The evening began pleasantly. We sat around the table, the smell of roast chicken filling the room, glasses of wine catching candlelight. Camille told stories of her travels, her job in design, her love for Daniel. I nodded, asked questions, and listened. Daniel's eyes shone every time he looked at her. But midway through the meal, something shifted. Daniel excused himself to fetch more wine from the cellar. Camille turned to her phone, replying to a message, and then muttered something under her breath in French. I almost ignored it until I caught the words. Music. How will I bear this for years? The words slid into my ears like knives. You see, I lived in Paris for 12 years. I studied art, worked odd jobs, loved and lost. French is stitched into my bones. But Camille didn't know that. She assumed the old man in the green sweater was deaf to anything beyond English. I stayed still, spoon poised over my plate, face neutral. My heart tightened, but I said nothing. That was not the time. Daniel returned cheerful, and the evening went on. Camille's smile returned, sweet as honey, as though the insult had never left her lips. But I kept hearing it. Boring, provincial. After dessert, Daniel excused himself again to take a work call. Camille leaned back in her chair, sighed dramatically, and whispered in French once more. Fatigue. He talks too slowly. He exhausts me. Old men like him should stay alone. That was enough. I cleared my throat gently. Camille looked at me, her face arranged in polite indifference. I leaned forward slightly and in clear, fluent French said, "Music. You know, miss, it is very rude to mock someone in a language you believe he does not understand, especially when that man is the father of the man you claim to love." Her eyes widened, color drained from her face. For a second, she looked like a child caught stealing sweets from a jar. She stammered, Vous parlez franc? I gave a small smile. Better than you, I'd say. The room went quiet, except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. She fumbled, trying to explain, but her excuses tangled in her throat. Daniel returned just then, cheerful as ever, until he noticed Camille's pale face. "What happened?" he asked. Camille opened her mouth, but no words came. I decided to spare her for Daniel's sake. I stood, placed my hand on his shoulder, and said, "Your fiancé and I were just having a little cultural exchange. Isn't that right, Camille?" She nodded quickly, eyes lowered, unable to meet my gaze. The evening ended shortly after. I thanked him for dinner, hugged my son, and wished Camille a polite good night. My heart ached for Daniel. I didn't want to destroy his happiness, but I couldn't ignore what I had seen or heard. That night, as I sat by my window at home, I thought of my late wife. She had been a woman of kindness, someone who treated everyone with respect, whether prince or pauper. I imagined what she would say if she had heard Camille's words. I knew the answer. A mask will always slip, and love built on pretense will never last. Over the following weeks, Daniel visited often. I never spoke of that evening directly, but slowly he began to notice things himself. The impatience in Camille's voice, the way she dismissed waiters at restaurants, her subtle disregard for his friends. One afternoon, he sat across from me, eyes heavy with realization. "Dad, I don't think Camille is who I thought she was." I reached across, squeezed his hand, and simply said, "Better to learn now than later, son." A month later, Daniel told me the engagement was off. His voice was sad, but also relieved. He admitted he wanted someone who respected not just him, but his family, too. I said nothing about that dinner or the French words that had pierced me. Some lessons are best left to reveal themselves. Now, sitting here months later, I reflect on that evening. Age makes you a keeper of secrets, a guardian of moments you don't always share. I don't regret holding my tongue with Daniel. He saw Camille's true colors in his own time, without me pushing. But I will never forget the look on Camille's face when she realized the boring provincial old man understood every word she had said. So let this be my advice from one grandfather to anyone willing to listen. Never underestimate the quiet ones at the table. Behind the wrinkles and silence might lie a lifetime of knowledge, languages, and stories you can't imagine. And if you mock them in words you think are hidden, well, don't be surprised when they answer you back, because I am Grandpa. I've lived, I've learned, and I will always understand more than you think.